On the quiet Sunday morning of April 19, 2026, the peace of suburban Shreveport, Louisiana, was broken by a sudden influx of 911 calls. Dispatchers quickly realized they were dealing with two separate active crime scenes. 8 children, ranging in age from just 3 to 11 years old, were dead. 2 women, the mothers of those children, were critically wounded. Investigators identified the shooter as 31-year-old Shamar Elkins. He was the biological father of 7 of the young victims. The scale of the violence left first responders stunned. Shreveport Police Chief Wayne Smith noted that the scene left even his most seasoned officers completely taken aback. The methodical targeting of specific children and their mothers across 2 locations suggested that this was not a random outburst, but the intentional destruction of a specific domestic unit. Elkins fled the immediate area. He violently carjacked a vehicle, leading police on a high-speed chase down the highway. The pursuit ended in a shootout with the Shreveport Police Department. Elkins was shot and killed at the scene. Because the suspect died during the standoff, there will be no arrest. There will never be a trial, and the victims' families will never hear a courtroom confession explaining his motives. With the perpetrator dead, investigators and the public are left with a void of information. To make sense of an act this extreme, we have to look to the dark science of criminal psychology. Criminal psychologists use a specific clinical term for this rare type of crime: family annihilation. It describes an event where an individual intentionally and systematically wipes out their own family members, effectively severing their own lineage. The primary drivers behind these acts are rooted in domestic disputes and an extreme desire to exert ultimate authority over partners and children. This can be triggered by a severe psychological unraveling. When the perpetrator feels their domestic sphere is collapsing, they may choose total destruction as a way to maintain a final, horrific form of control. By identifying these drivers, what initially appears to be a senseless anomaly begins to take on the structure of a deliberate, albeit catastrophic, act of domestic violence. The timeline and execution of the Shreveport attacks mirror these psychological patterns. Elkins traveled between 2 separate residences that morning, a detail that highlights the calculated nature of his intent to erase his entire domestic sphere. By targeting the 2 mothers alongside the children, Elkins ensured the total dismantling of the families he had built, asserting absolute dominance over their lives and their deaths. This specific focus on the complete erasure of his domestic life marks the Shreveport case as a clear example of the psychological unraveling that defines an annihilator. To understand the frequency of such events, we look to databases maintained by the Associated Press, USA Today, and the Gun Violence Archive. The data places the Shreveport tragedy in a grim national context. It was the deadliest mass killing in the United States since a similar tragedy in Chicago in January 2024. This was the 7th mass killing in the U.S. in the first few months of 2026, showing a rapid accumulation of mass casualty events. These figures highlight a lethal intersection: intense domestic instability and immediate access to high-capacity firearms. This suggests that Shreveport is not an isolated incident, but part of a pattern where domestic disputes become globally lethal when paired with a firearm. For the community in Shreveport, the focus now turns toward the 2 surviving mothers and the first responders who witnessed the aftermath. While these tragedies are rare, the domestic disputes that precede them are often visible. Intervention is possible when the warning signs of control and escalation are recognized early. If you or someone you know is in crisis, help is available through the National Domestic Violence Hotline and the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Analyzing the psychology behind these events is a tool for prevention. Understanding how a family annihilator operates better equips us to intervene before the next tragedy unfolds.